Hey, it's Drybear, and today we're talking all about Arc Raiders, the brand new PvEvP extraction shooter that is finishing up its server slam this weekend and also is going to be launching on October 30th. Now, one of the cool things about brand new games that I enjoy doing is just giving people the lay of the land, because I think a lot of times when there's a brand new game, tons of new mechanics, little niche tips and tricks and systems that you don't have exposure to yet, I like to give you the lay of the land so that you can dive into the game and focus on having fun rather than trying to understand all the new different tips and tricks that the developers have put into the game. So today I'm going to give you everything that you need to know to understand and enjoy Arc Raiders, all the systems, both out of game, in game, and the gameplay loop involved. So let's start with the gameplay loop itself, because there are some kind of, interesting decisions they've made on the game overall that make it unique in the genre. It is an extraction shooter, but it has a very strong PvE element. The Arc robots that you face in Arc Raiders are incredibly dangerous and are a serious threat, which makes it quite different than many of the other PvP-focused extraction shooters or even other extraction shooters that have PvE elements in them, like Scavs. This is nothing like that. They are very, very dangerous. Additionally, what's cool about Arc Raiders is it feels like it plays like a battle royale, but it's not a battle royale. There's no concentric circle. You can go wherever you want. All the areas just stay where they are and everything is fixed, which is really cool. But since it is an extraction shooter, the loop looks like this. You're gonna be like bottom side. It almost feels like, you ever watch Oblivion with Tom Cruise, where all the humans live underground because there's robots up top that kill everyone? That's kind of what this is. Everyone has to hide deep underground because being topside, they call it, is incredibly dangerous. So you will make raids, is what they call it, to the top side to gather loot, materials, precious resources, but you're also facing off against the danger of the Arc robots as well as other players when you do so. So you will enter into a raid, run around, gather as much loot as you can, and then find an extraction method to get back into the underground so you can keep your loot. If you end up dying while you're topside, you will lose everything except for a safe pocket that comes with some of the loadouts, which we'll talk about in a minute. The primary method for extraction is finding these elevators. They will be marked clearly on your map. It starts at the beginning of the match with many of them available, and they have staggered timers where they start to disappear over time, where by the end there's only like 1 or 2 available extraction points that are timed on these elevators. So all you have to do is walk up, hit the elevator, wait about a minute, it'll bring the elevator up and open up, then you have to go inside and do a terminal animation that will cause the doors to close, and anyone inside, whether they're friendly or foe, will be extracted down into the safe town called Speranza. Now, there are hatches. Dead by Daylight players will understand this. You will need a special key item that allows you to go to the hatch, activate it. It's only open for like 20 seconds or something like that, and then once the hatch closes, that's it. It's just like anyone that jumps in it gets out of it either, but here it is. You just get to the extraction, you go back, you keep everything on you. But a couple things happen when you activate the elevator. There's a lot of rat behavior going on. I'm gonna do some rat behavior here in this clip, but you actually will activate the elevator and a couple things will happen. One, it'll announce it loudly on a speaker, which can be heard for like a mile in every direction. Like everyone can hear when that elevator gets activated. And so you can wait for people to try and go to the elevator, take them out, take their loot, and then extract. People can also run in the last second as the doors are closing and extract with you. Even if you die, you can still actually stand up and like push the buttons and then collapse down while you're bleeding on the floor and still extract from that, which is pretty cool and gives you a lot of cool opportunities for extracting whatever way you want. And again, anyone in the elevator, friend or foe, incapacitated or standing, extracts regardless. And so there are situations where, I've had people slide in at the last second and dive into the doors as they're closing, and then even though we're enemies, we can't kill each other in time and we both extract. What's cool about this too is you can actually use the extraction if you're incapacitated. So like this situation, me and this guy were just vibing on the floor. You can walk over and you can actually just hit the button while you're crawling around. You'll reach up and touch it. You can actually do the same thing for calling the elevator as well. And so you can actually extract even though you're incapacitated, and anyone inside, friend or foe, gets out of there alive. Next, let's do a very brief introduction to loadouts, because there's a lot of different mechanics in the loadout itself that you're bringing into the match that is super important, that'll help you understand what's going on. So I have a blank loadout here, and I'm just kind of filtered what's available, so we're kind of just looking at this. So this is the loadout. The most important slot for your loadout is going to be your augment slot, which is is a weird way to say backpack. It's literally just a backpack. So you're going to have all kinds of augments that you can bring with your build. You'll notice that when I hover over this augment, all these extra slots appear. So the amount that you can hold has a baseline of 30, but your carrying capacity goes up when you use backpacks. There are various kinds of augments that have higher rarity with higher value. Some have trade-offs. Like the weight of it may slow you down, but you can carry more. You get the idea. You've gamed before, you understand that. So based on what you're bringing with you, it has a loadout capacity on how much you can hold, the amount of slots that you get into it, and also some of them are different in which slots they have. So over here you put the augment on, but you'll notice there is a backpack area here, which is used for any kind of item can go in this slot. Then you have your consumables over here, which is like healing items and grenades. By the way, in Arc Raiders, consumable grenades are one of the most important things that you can learn to use. There are grenades that draw the dangerous Arc robots away from you and towards someone else. Smoke grenades can help you extract. Like in most games, usually they're just done for damage, but the utility aspect of consumables in Arc Raiders is paramount. So really get used to using consumables as best you can. And again, some loadouts will have more slots here, less slots here, that sort of thing. The other slot is the one we mentioned earlier, which is the safe pocket. There's this one here. Again, some backpacks, some augments will have more or less of these. And this is basically an item slot that allows you to, even if you die, anything on that slot will extract with you regardless. And this is super useful if you find like a rare legendary blueprint or a super useful item or weapon that you want to hold on to. You can say, throw it in the safe pocket, regardless of what happens. If I get third-partied or something, I want to keep what's there. You get to use that in the safe pocket, so that's kind of your backup. Next is your shield slot, which is this right here. So this is a little bit different. It's not quite the same if you've played other, like Fortnite, PUBG, that sort of thing. It's not quite the same. It is just a damage reduction resource that allows you to reduce the damage that's coming in, but it also has the ability to be destroyed by electricity. So if an arc robot electrocutes you or something, it might get destroyed. Now, you have a shield device that you will put into the shield slot. This will grant you a certain amount of shield. Again, higher rarity gives you more durability and more charge on the shield itself. And as you'll note on this stat for with this very basic entry-level light shield, at the bottom you see damage reduction. This is super important to understand because you can still, if you have 1 HP and full shield and you take damage, you'll still die because all damage goes through shields. It's just when the shield is active, it reduces the damage that you take to your HP, which is a little bit different. So down here on the bar, you can see where this is right here. You see you have your checkpoints for the shield and the HP. Again, it is a charge amount for the shield. When you take damage, it will consume both the shield charge and deal damage to your HP, but the amount of damage you take to your HP is going to be reduced if you have shield active. So it's important to have it active, but you want to be watching your HP at the same time. It's also important to know that just like with your augment or your backpack, the larger the shield is, the more it will slow you down. So if you want more damage reduction, you'll have a trade-off there. So usually if you're playing solo, a lot of times people will go for lighter shields because movement is paramount, positioning is paramount. But if you're playing in groups or you're playing very slowly and stealthily, you might want to go for a heavier shield, which allows you to actually have more damage reduction, which makes you harder to kill. The last thing I'll mention about loadouts, and this is actually something that a lot of people need to get used to when they're first starting out in Arc Raiders, is you have the choice to bring your own loadout, but if you're out of items, it's an extraction game, if you don't have a lot of resources, you're kind of broke, you don't have to use your own items. There is another option. And that is, we're on the screen to queue up and ready up and go into the game right now. You notice there is at the top here, there's tabs for manage loadout. You can use a custom loadout, but there's another option that sounds bad, but is actually one of the most crucial aspects for getting a lot of resources and storing up your value as a player, and that's free loadout. So when you click on free loadout on this top here, it will give you a basic loadout. It gives you one weapon, a little bit of ammo, a couple bandages, an augment, and a light shield. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's given to you for free. You can even extract with it and use it again if you really want to, but it's a base level, entry level. It's 5 more capacity than normal. But what's great about the free loadout is you can just hit free loadout, hit ready up. It'll give you a basic setup. You will still want to get some ammo while you're in the run because oftentimes if you get into a lot, it's enough ammo for 2 or 3 fights and then you run out. So you want to make sure you find some as you're going, but it's excellent because then you can start making quick runs. Enter the match, get a couple loot items, loot a couple buildings, and then extract immediately and start building up your resources resources so you can craft, repair, recycle, upgrade, all of that, so you can actually get good value for your wealth as a raider without risking anything for yourself. Next up, let's talk about movements. There are some unique things here. I'm going to do this live because it's easier to discuss. So the first thing to note is that obviously you're going to be covering a lot of ground. You have a lot of space in the area, the maps you're looking at. Hopefully nobody finds me and shoots me here. So we're just going to be running around and we'll talk about the movement in general. The first thing is that you can sprint. It's very normal, very usual for these kind of games. Your stamina meter won't show up until you get to like 75% stamina. And you'll see it's going down here. However, as with most of these like action games, you will consume more stamina and move slower if your hands are filled. And so you can see in the bottom right, you see it says H for unarmed or 5, whatever the keybind is, you press it, it puts it away. And if you're not holding anything in your hands, you will move faster and consume less stamina, which means it's way easier for moving around. But obviously if someone finds you, you're going to have to deal with that as it comes out. So like pull out your weapon and deal with it that way. Next is going to be dodge rolling. On default, I believe PC is left alt, so you can run and you can dodge roll. This is a really important skill because again, this is, it's good for players, obviously, because if you realize you're kind of coming up against a cover, you can run, you can dodge roll into the cover, but it's very important for ARC robots. There are some that will kamikaze into you and explode. There will some that shoot you from far away. There are some that will mark you at a distance, and it's very dangerous. Oftentimes you'll have to come across a turret or some robot that's in your way, and dodge rolling is important. So it does consume a lot of stamina, but it's left alt. You want to use this very liberally to keep yourself alive. Next up, this is pretty cool for the devs to do this, but you have two different options for crouching. Crouching reduces the sound that you make, but you have a toggle and also a hold. So by default, I think it's left control on PC to hold. So I'm holding and I let go and I'll stand up, but you can also toggle it with C. So they have both double binds for that as well. The reason this is important is because it reduces the amount of noise you make. Obviously, if you play shooter games, you know that, but that's doubly important because players will hear you, but a lot of the AI robots you're fighting go off of sound as well. The more sound you make, the easier it is for the robots to find you, so you want to use that. But the reason I mentioned crouching, which is a very basic concept, is you can slide down slopes. So if you go down a slope and then you're sprinting and then you hold crouch or toggle crouch, you'll actually be able to slide. And some of these slopes get really, really steep, and you can slide all the way down. It allows you to cover a lot of ground quickly, and also allows you to avoid robots that are attacking you or other players that are shooting at you. Additionally, is it a TPS third-person shooter? This is something that I feel like some devs just forget about. But luckily, they did not. So in ARC Raiders, you can shoulder swap. Keybind is X-ray as in X-ray, but you can swap shoulders. You're going to be using this quite a lot, and you can actually do it while you're ADSing as well, which is super useful, but it's built into the game by default, which I feel like more TPS games need to be wary of, but the fact that it's here is a big thumbs up. Additionally, you will take fall damage if you drop, and sometimes, you're not going to be able to parachute like this is PUBG or something. There is a roll. So if you jump off from a high height and then either press control or hold it, you'll do a little roll at the end if you have enough stamina or you hit the right angle. So you want to be able to press that crouch button as you land. So you see there we got the fall damage from that jump. But if you have enough stamina and you're moving fast enough when you fall, you can actually just do a little dodge roll, which allows you to prevent yourself from taking that fall damage, and super useful. There is a height limitation. You can't do it from too high up, but it's important to know that if you have to jump off a building or jump off a staircase, make sure you know how to do this because it will save you from taking health damage. Next, let's talk about maps and just locations and things like that. In the server slam right now, which is different from the test that we had before, it doesn't have all these are going to be locked. So you kind of want to pay attention to this. However, once the game is live, so if you're watching this after October 30th, the locations are very important. So the map itself will tell you what's involved. It'll have a difficulty on it. It'll have a location. Some of them have very big robots. Some of them have less. Some have a higher presence of arcs. There's more robots. Some have less. But also, as you're looking for special details or resources, you'll note that on these, you can see on the location here, it says industrial mechanical. This one, I don't even know if I can even show this, medical commercial, right? Mechanical industrial. These all have different types of loot. So if you're looking to craft something, complete a quest, or you're looking for specific resources, the type of map makes a very big difference. And there's also special seasonal effects. There's seasonal bonuses, which will have when a map is in season, it might have more herbs and things things like that, like seeds or like fruits and vegetables, and you use those for crafting and completing quests. There's also things called night raids. This is where you're gonna get like really intense loot value. There's less return points. There's no hatches. The difficulty's way higher, and at night there's way more robots as well. So pay attention to the location, pay attention to the loot you're getting and what you're looking for, and think about it as you go forward. And hopefully, as the game goes on, they add more of these locations. Next, let's talk about looting. There's a lot to know about looting, some little tips and tricks that can help you move your loot process forward. So as you're going around, as we talked about, there's going to be locations that have these. Just looking at the map, these are the shutdowns. Like these are the actually escape elevators that have like the down arrow on them. You can go to this. These are the hatches, and again, based on the color of what's on it, it'll tell you what value loot there is. Again, if you're a shooter player or like an extraction player, you are very used to these kinds of systems, so you have those listed up here. But when you're looting, there's a lot to know about what to loot and when to loot it. So the first thing you're going to find is regular items just chilling, so you can pick these up and put them in your inventory. There's the next tier is then you open things that you can search. You will have to identify items. So you see that kind of like teal and pink wipe that goes across the items. That's identifying them. There is a skill tree we'll talk about in a second that will help you improve that process. But this allows you to kind of put items, identify items and put them in your inventory and that sort of thing. The next thing you need to know is about breaching. So some things that you come upon, like there might be a door that's like barred and locked. There might be a box that's like shut down, or you're looting the like components of a robot. You will have to breach it to get it open, which is just an animation. So you just come up here and it says breach and search. You will lock your camera, like you can't turn left to right very much. It's a locked animation, like you're vulnerable while you're doing this. The other thing about this as well is that it makes a ton of noise. So everyone can hear breaching from a good like 100 to 200 feet away. They can hear you breaching, and the arc robots can too. So when you find things that are breaching, you have to breach them, but just be very cautious about doing it. You'll also find usually the best loot from these as well as you go into them. Just be cautious about when you breach and how you breach, because that will make a lot of noise and draw attention to you. The next thing worth noting is that you can salvage while you're in a run. So you see these tiers here, right? This is like common tier. This is rare, this is uncommon, there's like 2 or 3 rarities above that. However, if you find that there's something that you either it's just junk and you just want to scrap it, or you don't have room in your inventory to hold on to the higher rarity tiers, you can actually right click on these on PC. I'm sure there's a keybind on console, and then just salvage it. So when you take this, I don't want to salvage a power cell, but you can actually grab one of these, you can salvage it into lower tier materials. This is super important. So you'll notice how like we have plastic parts here, which is the lowest tier quality, just like generally used for basic crafting, and then you have these binoculars here which are useful for looking far away. However, if I find that I'm taking up 2 inventory slots here with both of these, I can actually right click on the binoculars on PC and then go down to salvage into base materials. So when I salvage this, you'll notice that I made more plastic parts. So this is super useful for managing your inventory, because you feel like you have too many things that are higher quality, you don't have a lot of room, or you're looking for a specific material, you can salvage things into more basic parts to be able to move those around, right? Now, some things are only salvageable, and you'll see it on the item itself, whether it can be recycled or not. You see this is damaged driver, so I can just salvage this into this material here, but allows you to consolidate your inventory, and you learn the loot that you're picking up, so you can actually make sure you use good use of the space that you have available by salvaging these or dropping them. So don't always, like if you're out of inventory space, just drop them to the ground. You don't always have to do that. You can also salvage them if they're higher quality into a lower tier material, and that will stack up on something you already have to save you the inventory slots. Now, just how I opened this broken robot right here, there's a couple things that you want to pay attention to that might just be opportunistic. One of the most important items you can loot out here in the field are probes. They look like a giant torpedo. It's like white and laid down on the ground. You go up to it, you breach it, you open it, and it has very valuable materials in it. So pay attention to that and keep up with the loot that's going around. It's not just about looting buildings, but scrapping machines as well. Next, let's talk about PvP and PvE. So we'll talk about players, things you need to know about facing players, and then things you need to know about facing the arc robots. The first thing I want to talk about is ammo type. The players will have lower armor because they're humans and they have clothes on, and then you have robots which have high armor. So in general, this is not like a end-all be-all conclusion, but it's important to think in the back of your mind. Some ammo types have penetration on them. So you can see that we have this Pharaoh because I ran with just a free loadout this time. Hopefully nobody shoots me right now, but you can see at the bottom, you see that stat that says arc armor penetration. This is because it's a heavy ammo type weapon. It's good usually, it depends on your loadout and what you're trying to do when you get better at the game, but when you're first starting out, it's usually good to have one light or medium ammo weapon and one heavy ammo weapon because that arc armor penetration is very good. Having light ammo is great against other players because they don't have a lot of armor, but if you're using a light ammo weapon with low armor penetration against some of the larger robots, it's going to be a lot harder to damage and penetrate through their armor, so keep that in mind. Now, we've already talked about the ammo types that kind of go with the targets you're shooting at, but the next thing you want to know about PvP is that when any raider dies, they will automatically shoot out a raider flare straight up from them. And this not only allows you to see when other players die, so like right here, you see a player just died in the distance, and that shoots a giant flare up into the sky. This will call attention to them. Keep in mind that there is an item that allows you to shoot flares, whether that makes it into the final release of the game. Hopefully it does. It's kind of cool to trick people into thinking that someone just went down. You'll see these pop up all over the place, and it's meant to draw people closer to the combat so you can just see when things happen. So when you see that flare go up, know that there's, a player just died and got incapacitated in that area, so important to note. Another important thing to note is that if a player or raider is ever incapacitated, the robots will then ignore them. None of the arc robots target unless they do splash damage with the really high robots, which we won't talk about here, but in general, they won't actually aim at the players actively if they're incapacitated, which can be to your advantage and also something that you need to know strategically, because if a player goes down and they're surrounded by arc robots, you may not want to go loot them because they're surrounded by robots that will kill you in general. So keep that in mind, that as soon as a player becomes incapacitated, the robots think they're invisible. A lesser known thing as well for a lot of players is that the melee in the game, at least as of right now, bypasses the shields. It has no damage reduction on it as well. So don't be afraid to whip out your axe and melee someone if you have to, because it will give you a nice little boost of damage. There's also times, especially if you're running a free loadout, where you just run out of ammo, so don't be afraid to use that if you have to. Next, let's talk about the arc robots. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's a robot called the Queen, and there's some that are at a higher level that are a little bit more special and unique. The devs obviously put a lot of effort into making them feel special, so I'm not going to cover those, but let's go through the most common arc robots you're going to go through and how to counter them. Keep in mind that every single arc robot in the entire game has a weak point and has counterplay involved with it, so you want to pay attention to that. So the first one you'll run into, which is going to bug me in this clip here, are the ticks. They're just these little spider robots that jump around. They're mostly nuisances. The most thing that they do is they cause distractions and make a lot of noise. So they'll jump at you. Usually you can just melee them or just shoot them with any kind of ammo and they'll destroy very quickly. They drop some pretty important, like very entry-level arc materials, but just pay attention for them. You'll also run into turrets as well. This is a pretty funny clip. It's like the first 30 minutes of me playing a long time ago. You see the dead guy on the ground there, you walk up. Turrets are very dangerous, but they're very easy. You just need to find like a line of sight for them. I went to go loot the corpse without paying attention. The road found me and shoot it. So you'll find turrets that are placed on the walls. They're also near zip lines and in elevators and stuff like that. They have fixed locations and they aim, and they have lights that come out of them as well. So you see how that blue light is there? Pay attention to those. There's blue light means they're searching, yellow light means they're alerted, and red light means they have a target. So pay attention to those lights when you see them. When you see the turrets on the wall, just aim at them and destroy them. They're super easy. So you see how it goes blue to yellow to red. Just find a good angle, blast them. Again, heavy ammo is really good against them, and you'll be good to go. So there's also 3 different types of rolling arc robots as well. There's pops, the fireballs, and then the surveyors as well. The pops are all white with a ring around them, and they just kamikaze into you and explode. That's a fireball right there. So you see the white one, that's the pop. You just want to shoot them ASAP. If you run away like this, you'll take a bunch of damage when they explode. And then the fireball ones, they'll roll up to you and then they'll lift their front hatch and breathe fire. When that hatch opens up, so right there, shoot that white part. You also run into surveyors, which are these giant orbs. They don't always attack. You can break their armor off and shoot the armor from underneath. Oftentimes they'll just run away like little babies, but if you aggro them enough, they will ram you, and they do a good amount of damage. There's just little balls. Again, if you damage them or break their armor off, you can destroy them and loot them, but if they don't feel like they can win the fight, they'll just roll away and run. Sometimes they'll call for backup, but you want to pay attention to them as well. There's the largest orbs. There's also several classes of drones that fly around in the sky as well. There's hornets, wasps, rocketeers, which are by far one of the most dangerous flying ones. So you have these options here. Most of the flying ones, all you have to do is destroy their ability to stay afloat, and it's very straightforward. For the wasps, I recommend just blowing off 2 rotors on the same side so they have no buoyancy and they just fall to the ground. You don't even have to destroy them completely. As long as they lose their buoyancy, they can't have that lift, they'll crash to the ground and explode. The hornets have armor on their front rotors. Some of them will just do like machine gun fire, some will actually shock you, but the Hornets themselves, their front 2 rotors are armored, so the best way to deal with them is actually just to destroy their back 2 rotors to make them to fall, unlike the Wasps, which have unarmored rotors. So you see the bigger ones have armor, aim for the back ones, they'll fall to the ground. Like the Surveyors, there's also passive flying drones. I think they're called Snitches or also Surveyors. They're flying drones that don't attack, and they have these big sweeping beams of light. See that big yellow or red? They're like little circular ones. What'll happen is if they turn red and they target you, they'll start calling in rocket strikes from orbital bombardments like ships out in the sky. So you see those rockets coming down. They're pretty easy to dodge. Just make sure you stay moving. Like don't stand still. Those rockets will hit you and then destroy them. If you can destroy them fast enough, they won't call anything. But the big thing is they'll call rockets down on you. And as you can see, they call additional arc robots as well. So if you see these like Surveyor, like snitch robots that snitches get stitches, take them out quickly because they will call more attention to you and also call down rocket strikes. And you have Rocketeers, which are the largest drone that you'll find up in the sky. They're all black, very heavy, very slow, and very menacing. These are basically rocket launchers that fly around the sky, large AoE explosions, extremely dangerous. In general, I try to always avoid aggroing Rocketeers, and if I do, I just get out of dodge. Especially when you're in squads, one well-placed rocket can wipe out your entire squad, so Rocketeers are not to be messed with. If you have to fight, have heavy ammo rounds with high penetration, and then again, go for the rotors if you can. But again, generally you want to have lots of cover because those rockets are dangerous and they will constantly shoot at you as well. These things are mega dangerous and not to be taken lightly. Next up are the Leapers, which are these big guys. Their weak point is that glowing eye. You can also do a little bit more damage to the knee joints as well to take them down. They're mostly, you can just avoid them. They leap through the air and they will crush you and get on top of you. But as long as you're moving, you're not going to be as in danger as you are with the Rocketeers, but they make a lot of noise. They're very distracting and they can kill you if they get too close. So just aim for that eye in the center and take them down. Or just avoid them if you have to. Again, they just kind of try to leap on you, but like the ticks, they're just a giant tick basically. I'm sure they're going to end up buffing these to make them even more frightening, but in general, just try to get under like terrain, under boxes, and avoid them if you can. Now there's a couple other ones that I want to leave to Discovery, like the Queen and things like that, but in general, you want to be cautious about engaging with them. A lot of the small arc robots you can destroy quite easily, like the ticks, the flame turrets, a lot of the drones like the Wasps and Hornets you can destroy quite easily, but you want to be aware of them and keep in mind that not only do they react to sound like players do, but they also can be quite a threat depending on where you are, and they do drop a good amount of loot as well, so you can actually end up destroying them and getting some good batteries, some tech loot. Salvaging them is quite useful as well, so just be aware of them and treat them with respect. This isn't a game where PvE is very negligible. A lot of times you will end up dying very horribly to the arc robots if you're not careful. Next, let's talk about crafting, repairing, and tiering, and scrappy, and quests, and all of them like outside of the game rotation. So the first thing you want to do every time you finish a raid is come straight to your workshop here in the top left corner. In the server slam, none of this progression matters, but in the real game, when you actually have an inventory, it will. You will always want to come check Scrappy. So Scrappy is a character that is kind of like your anti-attrition mechanic. It means that it's a little chicken that collects very basic components that allow you to craft needed things like other augments and backpacks, getting shields, bandages, things like that. So every time you finish a raid, whether you extract or not, there will be a certain amount of these basic resources that Scrappy will get. You can claim this and then get this, and when the game is live, you can upgrade him to make him more efficient at collecting those materials as well, so make sure you have that going. Additionally, there's a ton of different workbenches. You'll be able to craft very important components. The most basic one is the workbench, but there's like a gunsmith, and there's things for like other materials and consumables and throwables and grenades and things like that. You want to actually use these as best you can, and again, that's why you're collecting these parts, so you can craft more of these basic things, so you can use the loadouts as well, but it also allows you to upgrade them too. So you want to, when the game is live, grab those resources and upgrade these by going to the level up area and getting that done, then using those parts to craft them and get it done as well. You can also use the track resources button to put these materials on your track resource. Anytime a material is tracked, when you go in game, you see that little like eyeball at the bottom of the pop-up, tracked for blueprint. When you see that eyeball, it'll just pop up in game, letting you know that this is one of your tracked materials. So if you really need materials, you can mark them all for tracked, go into a run, and then only pick up things that have the marked eyeball on them, just to make sure you're building it up. But it is important to have high-level workbenches, gunsmiths, things like that, to get it all done. You also go to the traders as well. These all have their own items you can buy for coin, and they also have quests as well that you can get into as well. So if you wanted to, you get these quests done from from these characters. There's only one on the server slam that has this that I can show you, but you can just do these quests. These will give you a good amount of really good materials as well. This is one of the flares that I was talking about before that does a rare distress flare that fakes people into coming. And you can get like, you know, different cosmetics and things like that. So make sure you're keeping up with your traders. And the other thing worth mentioning is going to be the skill trees. This is under your raider category on the main menu. And there's a lot of really good things on here. The progression doesn't matter during the server slams. It's all going to get reset anyways. But there's some things that are super important that you want to pay attention to. And every time you do a raid, and whether you extract or not, you'll get some XP and get it done. And you'll go through these and unlock these. So there is actually a decent amount of progression. And a lot of these, it takes a lot of points. So you'll have a lot of progression as you level up. Some things that are super important is being able to like reveal, identify items in containers faster, increasing your maximum carry weight, improving speed, being able to do like dodge roll, you know, to avoid stamina. There's some really good things that can be super useful in here, and you want to pay attention to this. All you have to do is do the raids, level up, but just make sure you're spending your skill points on the skill tree. And that's it for Ark Raiders, a super fun extraction game with very menacing PvE and very strong PvP, a lot of really unique aspects and mix-ups on the game, and overall I think it's really awesome. So hopefully this video helped you out getting started in the game and getting introduced to the mechanics. If you have anything to share for other players that are starting in the game, drop that down below in the comments. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.